Once upon a time there was Amaka, a proud young woman about to marry the love of her life. Under the golden lights of an opulent Lagos hall, she floated down the aisle toward Obi, her groom. Just as she reached the altar, a hushed conversation drifted to her ears. Her fiancé was secretly planning to abandon her fortune moments after the vows. Her heart caught in her throat, eyes wide with disbelief. Could the man she trusted betray her at this most sacred hour? Amaka grew up in a close-knit suburb of Lagos Island, where every Sunday morning began with the scent of achara frying on street corners and the laughter of neighbors sharing stories. As the only daughter of a respected textile merchant, she learned early the value of family honor and community bonds. By day, she managed her father's boutique near Balogan markets, selecting vibrant encore prints, negotiating prices, and building trust with loyal customers. By night, she studied law at the University of Lagos, determined to champion justice for those who couldn't afford it. For Amaka, life felt certain: strong roots, clear purpose, and a loving fiancé in Obi who promised unwavering support. Obi had been her college sweetheart, handsome, charismatic, and ambitious. He courted her with poetry under mango trees, sending her love letters sealed with traditional attire patterns. Their engagement had been the talk of the neighborhood. But beneath the smiles and celebratory toasts, small cracks were forming. Obi spoke often of launching a tech startup, yet he never mentioned funding sources. He spent late nights on calls he refused to explain. Amaka noticed the extra cash withdrawals from her joint account, her wedding fund dwindling faster than she expected. Therefore, on their final date before the wedding, Amaka confronted him at Terra Culture Cafe. Her voice trembled when she asked, "Obi, where is our money going?" He brushed it off, placing a hand on her wrist. "My love, you worry too much. Trust me, everything will be fine." His words were warm, but his eyes flickered with guilt. That evening, Amaka sat alone on her balcony overlooking the Lagos Lagoon. She recalled Obi's promise: "I will protect you and build a future worthy of your dreams." But as the city lights reflected on the water, doubt seeped in. Why had their once open conversations turned secretive? Why did he glow when talking about his mysterious investors but avoid her questions? Meanwhile, Amaka's best friend, Ada, sensed the tension. Over steaming cups of Zobo at Ada's apartment, she urged Amaka to open her eyes. "You deserve transparency, Amma. You're strong enough to demand it." Amaka nodded, comforted by Ada's straightforward counsel. On the morning of the wedding, Amaka awoke in her family's ancestral home in Surulere. The halls were decked with red and white roses, and her younger sister helped her into a custom-made lace dress embroidered with symbols of prosperity. As she admired her reflection, her mother whispered blessings in Yoruba: "May your union be blessed, may your hearts remain true." But as Amaka stepped toward the car, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Stop the wedding now, or you'll regret it." Her breath hitched. She scrolled, no replies, no sender name. A chill ran down her spine. Ada appeared at the gate, concern etched on her face. "What's wrong?" she asked. Amaka opened her mouth to speak, but her voice caught. In that frozen moment, all the carefully built joy turned to fear. The stakes were higher than she ever imagined. This was no longer about love and community. This was about betrayal, power, and danger. Would she go forward into vows with a man whose secrets threatened everything she held dear? Or would she pause, confront the truth, and reclaim control of her destiny? As the wedding ceremony commenced, Amaka's steps felt heavier with each footfall. The priest began the wedding program. Guests leaned forward expectantly, and Obi adjusted his tie with a rehearsed smile. Yet Amaka's mind raced back to that anonymous warning text. She scanned the crowd, looking for Ada's reassuring nod, only to find her friend's face drawn and pale. Just as the priest asked, "Do you, Obi, take Amaka to be your lawfully wedded wife?" Amaka raised her hand, voice steady but loud enough for every corner of the hall to hear. "Wait!" A hush fell. Obi's smile flickered. The priest paused, hands hovering over his Bible. Gasps rippled through the guests. Amaka held up her phone, lit by the bright overhead chandeliers. "Before I say I do, there's something you all must hear." She tapped the screen. A recorded call began to play through the venue's speakers, Obi's voice, unmistakable, arguing with someone about the timing of their divorce settlement. Yes, after she signs, I get every naira.
The wedding's just for show, he said, chuckling.
Shock collided with outrage. Wedding drummers fell silent. Mothers gasped into their palms. Obi's facade cracked. Sweat beaded his forehead. His jaw clenched. The mysterious someone on the recording whispered, "You'll thank me later." Obi stammered, "Amaka, it's not what you think." But his protest bounced off the vaulted ceiling. Amaka pressed play again. This time, a second recording. Obi in a private call, promising business partners that Amaka's dowry and family connections would open doors in Abuja's elite. "She's the key," he said. "Without her, we'd never get this contract." Tears welled in Amaka's eyes, not from heartbreak, but from righteous fury. Guests turned toward Obi as one. Murmurs swelled into shouts. "Betrayer! Shame! How dare you!" Even the father of the bride's ornate walking stick thudded on the marble floor in anger. Obi tried to reach for Amaka's hand. She recoiled, backing away toward her mother, who stood like a protective lioness. Obi's best man, Chidi, looked torn, his face drained of color. The wedding coordinator fumbled with the sound system, panic on her lips. In that heartbeat, Amaka made a decision. She would not crumble into tears nor allow Obi to rewrite their story. She strode to the microphone. "Today was supposed to be my happiest day," she said, voice calm, but echoing with power across the hall. "But I refuse to be your pawn. Obi, you thought you could use me. You thought my love would blind me. You were wrong." Obi's world imploded. He sank to his knees, stammering apologies. He pleaded with the guests, his family, even his mother, who had traveled from Enugu for the ceremony. But the walls he built came crashing down under the weight of his deceit. Outside the hall, security guards escorted Obi to a waiting car. Spectators lined the steps. Some cheered Amaka, others jeered at the groom's retreat. Amaka stood tall in her lace gown, the white fabric transformed into armor by her indignation. Ada rushed to her side, wrapping an arm around her waist. "Come home with me," Ada whispered. "We'll figure this out." Amaka exhaled, the tension in her shoulders loosening. "No," she replied softly. "Tonight I go back inside, on my terms." She re-entered the hall alone. The musicians, sensing the shift, began a soft Nigerian gospel hymn instead of the celebratory high life. The congregation rose, not to witness a wedding, but to honor Amaka's courage. Lanterns glowed like fireflies overhead as she moved down the aisle to the empty altar. Reaching the center, she raised her arms. "This day isn't over," she declared. "It belongs to every woman who's been used, every girl taught to stay silent. I choose myself." A roar of applause erupted, a standing ovation that shook the chandeliers. Obi's car skidded away into the Lagos dusk, its taillights flickering like guilty eyes. Inside the hall, the gospel hymn faded. Amaka stood at the altar platform, every guest gaze fixed on her warrior stance. She let the silence stretch, then raised her voice, steady and ringing. "Obi thought he could break me, but today I break his lies." A hush fell deeper than before. Amaka stepped off the dais and strode through the center aisle, her heels clicking like a judge's gavel. Each footfall echoed conviction. "You see," she continued, "I trusted him with my heart, my family's honor, my future. But trust is a two-way street." Turning toward the empty pews where Obi had sat, she addressed the gathering. "He gambled with my dowry, manipulated my dreams, exploited my kindness. But here's what he forgot. I am more than a prize to be won. I am the architect of my own destiny." At that moment, Obi burst back through the grand entrance, flanked by 2 security guards. His face was ashen. Amaka paused, seeing in his eyes a flicker of regret and fear. Guests leaned forward. Her mother's hand gripped Ada's arm. Ada mouthed, "Stand your ground." Amaka inhaled deeply. "Explain?" she echoed. "You'll have your chance at the police station." A murmur swept the hall. Obi's knees buckled. The guards gently lowered him to a chair. Amaka climbed back onto the platform. In Lagos, we value respect and truth, she said, addressing the crowd. I will press charges for fraud and emotional abuse. No one who betrays trust should walk free. Someone in the back called out, "We stand with you, Amaka." Hands shot up, nurses, bankers, students, elders' voices uniting in support. The hall that had been set for a wedding now became a courtroom of public opinion. Obi's best man, Chidi, stepped forward. His voice trembled. "I'm sorry, Amaka. I didn't know." Chidi looked at Obi, disillusioned. Obi hung his head. The police arrived, quietly taking Obi's statements as guests offered testimonies, some exposing small inconsistencies they'd noticed over months. Sudden fund transfers, unexplained trips, hushed phone calls. Each detail wove a tapestry of deception. Amaka watched it all unfold, her posture regal. She felt the adrenaline surging through her veins, not from fear, but from righteous justice. This was her moment of reckoning, for herself and for every woman whose voice had been silenced. As the final statement was recorded, Amaka turned to her mother, who nodded with pride. Then to Ada, whose tears glistened with solidarity. Then she faced the crowd. "Let this be a lesson," Amaka announced. "Love without honesty is a cage. Trust is not blind, it demands proof. And when betrayal comes, you stand tall, you speak out, and you reclaim your life." The crowd erupted into applause, stamping and cheering like a standing ovation at a concert. Music rose, a triumphant Afrobeats track echoing hope, and Amaka stepped down the aisle not as a bride, but as a heroine reborn. For the first time, Amaka felt the weight of every lie lift from her shoulders. In exposing Obi's betrayal, she reclaimed her dignity and inspired everyone who watched. After the euphoric applause and the pounding Afrobeats faded, Amaka stood in the hushed aftermath at the grand entrance of the hall. The police had led Obi away in handcuffs, and guests drifted into the courtyard, voices low as they processed the day's upheaval. The early evening sky over Lagos was painted in deep purples and oranges, as if the city itself acknowledged the drama that had unfolded within its heart. Ada guided Amaka toward a sleek black SUV waiting nearby. "You're leaving this place tonight a different woman," she said gently. Amaka closed her eyes, letting the cool breeze brush against her face. "I feel it," she replied, voice soft but resolute. Inside the car, Amaka's mother sat beside her, clutching her daughter's hand. "My daughter, you showed such courage," she whispered in Igbo. "Your father and I are proud." Amaka squeezed her mother's hand in gratitude. Their bond, once tested by scandal, now felt stronger than ever. They drove through the traffic of Victoria Island, past high-rise buildings aglow with neon and the distant hum of evening markets. Amaka watched familiar landmarks blur past, Freedom Park, the towering silhouette of the Civic Center, knowing she was returning to a life reclaimed rather than lost. At Ada's apartment, a small gathering had formed. Amaka's closest friends, family, and even a few guests from the wedding who pledged to support her. Tables were laden with jollof rice, suya skewers, and chilled zobo. Laughter mingled with relief as people recounted the day's drama like a thrilling film. Chidi, Obi's best man, approached Amaka with downcast eyes. "I'm so sorry for what you endured," he said quietly. "I'll testify for you in court." Amaka looked at him, recognizing his genuine remorse, and nodded. "Thank you, Chidi. Your honesty means a lot." Meanwhile, Ada rallied the group to raise a toast. "To Amaka, the bravest woman I know. May your future be brighter than any gown you ever wore." Glasses clinked in unison. Amaka felt tears spring to her eyes, but they were tears of triumph, not sorrow. As the evening wore on, the chatter shifted from betrayal to possibility. Amaka shared her plans. She would finish her final semester at the University of Lagos, launch a women's legal aid clinic in her father's neighborhood, and speak out on fraud and abuse in marriage contracts. Her friends buzzed with excitement, offering contacts, ideas, and funding leads. Back at her family home in Surleer the next morning, life resumed its rhythm, but nothing was quite the same. The old radio in the living room crackled with news on Amaka's story. Social media had exploded with hashtags #Justice for Amaka and #BrideStrong. Influencers and local news anchors debated her case, praising her resolve. Some wedding planners sent messages offering pro bono services for her future events, and NGOs reached out to collaborate on women's rights campaigns. Amaka opened her laptop to find her inbox flooded. Invitations to speak at law schools, requests for interviews, offers of sponsorship for her legal aid clinic. She paused at one subject line, Women's Fund Nigeria Partnership Proposal. She clicked it and read a message from a prominent foundation offering seed money to launch her initiative. Her heart swelled. That afternoon, Amaka walked through the bustling corridors of the University of Lagos campus. Classmates waved in admiration. Professors nodded respectfully. A reporter from Channels Television approached her. Amaka, what message do you have for young women who feel trapped in toxic relationships? Amaka paused, then answered with calm conviction. Trust your instincts.
Speak your truth, and never let fear silence you.
Later, she visited Balagan Market to return to her roots. At her father's boutique, she helped display new Ankara collections, negotiating with fabric suppliers and sharing laughter with regular customers. A woman at the next stall nudged her. Thank you, Amaka. You inspire us all. Amaka smiled, realizing that her personal journey had rippled outward, touching lives she may never meet. That evening, Amaka sat on her balcony overlooking the Lagos Lagoon once more. The city lights shimmered, and gentle waves lapped against the shore. Ada joined her, handing over 2 steaming mugs of zobo. They clinked cups in silent celebration. I never imagined this, Amaka said softly. My worst day became my turning point. Ada nodded. Sometimes the hardest battles forge the strongest spirits. Amaka stared at the horizon, thinking of the road ahead. Final exams, court dates, launching her clinic, rebuilding trust in herself and others. The challenges were real, but for the first time in her life, she felt fully in control of her destiny. As night fell over Lagos, Amaka stood once more on her balcony, reflecting on the whirlwind that had reshaped her life. She thought of every woman silenced by fear, every girl taught that obedience was worth more than truth. Her journey proved that self-respect and courage could shatter the darkest lies. Today, she began in a calm, clear voice. We learned that love without honesty is a gilded cage. As it is written, therefore each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthfully to your neighbor. For we are all members of one body. Ephesians 4 verse 25. We learned that trust must be earned, not assumed. When betrayal threatened to steal my joy, I remembered the promise, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Psalm 34 verse 18. In my weakest moment, I found strength. The truth will set you free, said Jesus. John 8 verse 32, and so it did. By speaking my truth, I reclaimed my life. And I wore my new armor, for she is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come, Proverbs 31 verse 25. If you've ever been hurt by betrayal, remember this. You deserve respect, transparency, and joy. Do not settle for shadows when you can stand in the light. Draw courage from Philippians 4 verse 13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Amaka smiled gently, arms outstretched toward the Lagos skyline. I built a future from the ashes of deceit, and so can you. Share your story in the comments below. Stand with Amaka and stand with every voice that demands justice. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to join our community of courageous hearts.